Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Weekly Waypoint. Today, something a little bit different to what we've been doing recently, although not too different for the series as a whole. We've been here before. This is Grid 2019. Been a minute since we did a racing game, and I thought, hey, why not? I mean, it's very much in line with stuff I'm going to talk about later today, but I just kind of went, hey, what games are available for me to play? What tickles my fancy in this particular minute? And Grid was a game that I thought of, and that's why it's Grid. We're not doing a series retrospective or anything like that, although I wouldn't mind doing that for Grid someday. But for those of you who don't know, this is EA, or Codemasters in particular. It's their answer to Forza Motorsport, I guess. Gran Turismo, you know, those kinds of races, although Grid has always been a little bit more arcadey, varying on the particular title, sometimes more than other times. This should be available on Game Pass Ultimate, because it is an EA game nowadays. I believe EA bought Codemasters a few years ago. But I did actually pick up this game on a deep discount. I think I got like all the DLC with it and stuff, and I've put a decent amount of time into its campaign mode, because its campaign mode is quite expansive, although when I say expansive, it is recycling a limited number of cars and tracks. It just has a lot of events to get through. If you're wondering, why did Christian decide to race trucks today? It's just because it was the next event in my racing list. I actually decided to jump to a different division or discipline or whatever the hell it's called in this game for the last two races, just so we'd have something a bit different. But yeah, Grid's a fun racing game. I do find it to be a little bit stiff in terms of handling compared to other games within the genre, and I've never quite gotten over that hump, and therefore it's never been my absolute favourite racing game, but I am very fond of the genre. I did try Grid Legends as well when it hit Game Pass, and it's very much an iterative sequel to Grid 2019. It looks very similar, it plays very similar. I believe the main difference is the campaign mode actually has a story attached to it and has some variety in terms of weird wacky modes like dodging cones and stuff. But if you're ever in the mood for an on-the-track racing game and you know you're sick to death of Forza, why not try Grid? Good game to stick on while you're listening to a podcast or something. Also, Grid does have an unfortunate history on the channel of being the background footage for rare weekly waypoints where I have to talk about something fairly real in my life. That's not the case today, don't worry. Everything's fine, apart from this gameplay, good lord. But yeah, what I kind of wanted to talk about this week is, you know, kind of part of the impetus behind choosing Grid, is I've been in a weird, like, just putting my fingers in a lot of pies mode. There's got to be a better way to phrase that. I feel like the last little while I've been obsessed with, like, I want to start a game, play a game, and finish a game. My endless folly as someone with most likely ADHD who hardly ever finishes games. But I like to lie to myself and say that I can, and for a good week or so I will stick to maybe one game, maybe one or two, before I bounce off to something different. Now, there are also times when I do what I'm doing now. I play a bunch of different games. I load up a game for a session, and then I drop it, and then I move on, and I keep doing that. And I usually get quite frustrated when I'm doing that. That's me not being able to settle on anything. That's not what I'm actually doing here. This is semi-intentional this time. And don't get me wrong, I still want to finish games, I still want to stick to games and all that, but when I say semi-intentional, I mean I haven't put a lot of thought into this. I've just kind of casually been like, fuck it, I'm gonna play a bit of this. Why not? There are so many times when I'm like, I was playing that game 2 months ago and I dropped it. That's a shame. I could pick it up again, but I'm not really in the mood to complete it, so I'm just gonna kind of let it fall by the wayside until I'm really in the mood for it again. Nah, fuck that, that's overthinking. I decided to play some Dragon Quest III HD2D yesterday, which is the perfect example of one of those games. It's the perfect example of me going, I was super into this game and then I dropped it, and I kind of want to play more of it, but I'm not really feeling finishing it right now. I just went, shut up, just play the damn game. Just load it up and play the game. And I did. I played it for like half an hour, and then I don't know if I'm going to load it back up again. Probably, maybe, possibly, who knows. But breaking through that barrier of overthinking, I am finding quite liberating at the minute. Off the top of my head this week, I have played Final Fantasy XIV, The Elder Scrolls Online, Dragon Quest III HD 2D, Pokemon Violet, which I'm still streaming on Fridays and maybe Mondays, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, which I'm not streaming at all nor recording. That one's just for me, I've decided. Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, if we're going to count iPad games, but that's kind of every day anyway. For the King 2 with Reese, more Grim Dawn, a game called Necess, which was having a free weekend on Steam. I never participate in free weekends of any kind because I'm worried they're going to suck me in, and Necess is a really cool game actually, you should check it out. The quick sell is like top-down Terraria, but that's not doing it justice. I've literally only played it for like an hour, but it left a solid first impression on me is what I'm saying here. But yeah, I just cut back on some of the like, what game am I going to pursue next? And then I will complete this game, and then I will play. Just play games. Who cares? Don't think about it. Is this a philosophy that I'm going to take with me throughout the rest of my years when it comes to video games? Probably not. If you were to go back and watch every previous Weekly Waypoint episode, I would not recommend doing that. You will surely lose your mind. There's probably just a long history of me swaying back and forth on, I need to focus on completing games then. I need to stop trying to focus on completing games. Time is a flat circle, free will is an illusion, behaviour is cyclical. We are likely to enact the worst crimes we have suffered through on those we love. Whoa, we got a bit away from things there, sorry, where did that come from? But yeah, okay, enough of that. To get a little bit more into it, I do want to talk a little bit more about ESO, the Elder Scrolls Online, for the acronymiverse. I had a weird itch. I think the weird itch came from when I put the music of ESO on when I was writing. By the way, bloody brilliant writing music. And I was like, oh, they've got this big Pan-Tamriel celebration event coming up soon, right? And I thought, oh, maybe I'll return and do that event. That would be cool because they have this like whole, it's separate thing, but they have this whole like, I forget what they call it, Golden Pursuits system now. That's what it's called. And it's basically like, oh, for a limited time, log in, do these things, and we will give you these cool rewards. Between that and like the Pan-Tamriel celebration stuff, I was looking at the rewards and I was like, why do I chase this stuff? I don't think I care about this stuff. Like for the Golden Pursuit for like January or whatever, it was an outfit and I was like, I mean, it was also a lot of gold and I like that because you can use that for player housing. But it was just kind of an outfit. And then I was looking at some of the stuff you can get from the Pan-Tamriel celebration stuff, and it's a cool Lion's Guard like armor set, to be fair. But like just, you know, I just look at it and I just go, ugh. So I just went, I'm not going to bother with any of that, and I loaded it up and I continued side questing through Rivenspire on my main character because I'm still working on Hero of the Daggerfall Covenant, and I just had the nicest time just doing the quest, just doing what ESO was made for. I didn't even get ESO Plus because I'm currently broke as hell, so I wasn't gathering any crafting materials on my way through or looting everything I saw. I was just, you know, selling loot I picked up instead of dismantling it because I don't have the bag space for the crafting materials that would net me. I just been playing the quests, and I think ESO is in danger of getting a little too far away from that. This year they've announced that for the first time ever they're not focusing on a story DLC, they are instead focusing on improvements to the game as a whole, which is good, but I think that also comes with a heavier insistence on live service elements such as that new Golden Pursuits feature, which I don't know if I'm a huge fan of, to be honest. So yeah, I've been away from ESO for a while, but I did check in and I kind of had that realization because I did even like, I decided to participate in like the Pan-Tamriel celebration. That's the last thing I did when I logged in. I was like, I'm having fun questing, but while I'm here I might as well try and get my daily box. And I was like, I'll get a daily box through, I don't know, a Somerset, you know, incursion event or whatever, and I couldn't find one that was active, and I ran around for ages, and I went, okay, fine, it'll be easier to do a delve, and I decided to do a random delve in High Isle, and for some reason the boss kept despawning, and I was talking to my friends at the time, and I think it might have been a mechanic where they ran deeper into the cave or something, but it wasn't telegraphed very clearly for someone who only had one ear in the game, and I just got really frustrated with how long it took, and I didn't even get the event box, and I went, why am I doing this? I don't even care, why am I doing this? Just play the goddamn side quests. So I think when I play ESO now, I'm just going to focus on, you know, completion of zones, because that's what I find the most fun. I'm going to focus on hunting achievements, because that's what I find the most fun. I don't need to worry about all of this limited time bullshit, which can be fun, to be fair, and isn't done as badly as some other MMOs do it, but isn't doing it as well as it used to. So there you go, that's There's some unexpected Elder Scrolls Online opinions for you. I think I've just talked myself into booting it up again and returning to the freaking questing that I was doing after I'm finished recording. But yeah, to expand a little bit on some of the other games I mentioned, obviously I've been streaming Pokemon Violet and having a great time with it, and I was kind of in a headspace earlier of like, I've edited a Final Fantasy XIV video today, I'm too tired to stream after doing that, but I do still want to play Pokemon. And so I fired up Brilliant Diamond, which I'm like halfway through the main story of, so I've like barely touched that game, in other words, as far as Pokemon standards goes. And Pokemon Diamond is one of my earliest and most favourite Pokemon games ever, and of course I've probably said it all before, but Brilliant Diamond is not the remake I was hoping for. It's way too like, I don't know, faithful is a weird way of saying it, but Pokemon fans know what I'm talking about. Previous remakes we had added cool things to the remakes, and these ones are just kind of like, well, I might as well just play the originals. But I don't know, I'm playing it in handheld mode now, which sounds like it shouldn't make much of a difference, but if you look at the art style of that game, it's clearly kind of made to be like a handheld entry, and I think my problem with it before was probably that I was approaching it as play it on the main screen, record it, make videos about it, you know, share my experience about it. I think that's too involved. I think Pokemon Brilliant Diamond needs to be more of a casual playthrough where I'm just playing it in handheld mode, so it's on a smaller screen and it feels cozy, and I think it probably performs a little bit better too, and the graphics hold up a bit better because they're not kind of being stretched in that weird aliasy switch way that they do, and the small things aren't made big, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not recording it, I'm not sharing my experiences, it's just for me, and I'm actually quite having a good time with that. I think maybe this was how I was supposed to enjoy Brilliant Diamond. But yeah, the whole like just picking kind of random video games as they flit across my mind to go play, part of that is just looking at my expansive library at this point, it's expansive, of video games I've acquired over the years on multiple platforms, and just going, oh fuck man, I just play that. We're constantly looking at new things which are coming out and looking towards the future and getting excited about those, but I look at my library of games and I go, I could just freaking play that. I forgot to mention I also played some Spyro 2 from the Reignited trilogy, and I continued playing some Grim Dawn, so yeah, it just keeps going. This mindset of not overthinking things also applies to a couple other things I've been doing this week in terms of media. And if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to go quickly check I didn't talk about this last week, depending on how long I've been doing this for. Okay, so I already talked about the fact that I'm rewatching Daredevil. Part of not overthinking that was me being like, I want to rewatch Daredevil before Born Again, but I don't love rewatching stuff because it's sinking time into a story I already know, etc, etc. I talked about this last week. Doesn't matter because 3 people watched last week's video. If you ever want to get views on a gaming video, do not make it about the original GTA videos. Sheesh. But anyway, blah blah blah, don't overthink it, just go rewatch it. I'm currently halfway through season 2. In fact, no, I'm near the end of season 2, so I'll probably have time to rewatch the first 2 seasons of The Punisher if I want to. I say the first 2 seasons, it only got 2 seasons. I also want to watch Echo, but yeah, update on that. Fucking spoilers, Daredevil, it's not spoilers, Daredevil is a fantastic show and I love it dearly. I am realising that season 1 was maybe a little bit stronger than season 2, just a bit more tightly crafted, I guess, but season 2 is also fantastic. But yeah, that's not the only media I've been experiencing, I never know how to phrase that. Books. You may know I've been mainlining the Sun Eater series for a little while now because it's goddamn incredible is why, and I'm still just putting that shit into my eyeballs at, well, not every opportunity, but at most opportunities. However, as amazing as it is, I was getting a little oversaturated with kind of like science fiction fantasy, if you know what I mean. It's kind of been the only genre I've been reading for like maybe a decade, besides the occasional diversion, I suppose. And I just got to thinking about Stephen King. I don't even know why. I think I just randomly got a Dark Tower video in my recommendations. Probably a goddamn Daniel Green video, because that man influences my reading habits to a ridiculous degree. But I kind of went on like a Dark Tower deep dive, because I have read the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. Those are the only books I have read by Stephen King, and I am now learning that this was entirely the wrong way to go about that. Because for those of you who aren't aware, the Dark Tower is a 7-book fantasy epic from Stephen King, which is kind of the centerpiece of his multiverse. That's right, Stephen King's books, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them take place in a kind of a multiverse that he has going on. And while reading extra Stephen King books are not crucial to the enjoyment of The Dark Tower, as I can personally attest to, it does add a lot of context and enjoyment to it, apparently. I mean, I can remember some things where I'm like, oh, okay, that's a bit random, and looking back I'm like, that's probably not random, that's probably a character from another series that's showing up. So anyway, I kind of fell into like a little Stephen King wormhole. That's not the right word, but I like it, we're keeping it. And I remembered that I do own a few Stephen King books. I don't remember how I own them or where I got them from, but for about a decade I know I've had them. I've had The Shining and The Stand. And I remember I attempted both books. I got bored of The Shining, like, before the end of the first chapter, because, I mean, it starts with an angry guy getting employed and being told about the history of a hotel. It is a little boring. And I think I made it a few hundred pages through The Stand, and I think I put that one down because it was too bleak and scary. I have this weird thing about post-apocalyptic worlds kind of having an unnerving effect on me, to the point where I don't want to keep interacting with that media. Go watch my The Last of Us thoughts on series, which I didn't finish. I think they're good stories, I just don't like the way they affect my brain and make me think about the world, I guess. But I do want to try both again, and in fact I have picked up The Shining again, and I'm currently like 4 or 5 chapters into it, and I'm actually really enjoying it. While I've never read a Stephen King book outside of A Dark Tower, I did grow up with some Dean Koontz books, and Dean Koontz is basically the Pepsi to Stephen King's Coke. It's the Grid to Stephen King's Forza Motorsport, I suppose. Although I guess Forza Motorsport is the Pepsi to Gran Turismo's Coke. Anyway, whatever. Point is, I'm kind of a meme of that guy. You know, guy who's only ever read Dean Koontz reads a Stephen King book and goes, I'm getting big Dean Koontz vibes from this book, is literally a thing my subconscious is kind of saying at me. Long story short, I've read these types of books before and I do like them, but I haven't read them in a long time, and it is having the desired effect of being very refreshing. I find the characters really interesting, and I like the whole element of like something weird and supernatural or paranormal or whatever is kind of occurring in the background, and it's mysterious, and we'll learn more about it as the book goes on and how it affects these really colourful and well-crafted characters. So yeah, I think I'm going to add Stephen King to my repertoire of authors I want to read a lot of, and I know that's also a great idea because Stephen King himself has quite a variety of types of books that he writes. So yeah, I'm still, by the way, reading Sun Eater. I read a chapter like an hour ago, so yeah, I guess if this week has one theme for me, it's variety is the spice of life. It's been a week of me going, screw it, yeah, why not, let's do that. How long will this madness continue for? Who can say? How long will I continue to exert my free will before shackling myself once again to notions of order and completing things? Who can say? All I know is that we are coming to the end of another episode of A Weekly Waypoint, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you are having a good day, I hope you will continue onwards to have a good week, and I will see you in whatever I make next.